Hello, in this video I'm gonna show you how to create a set of consistent AI images for a guide that I'm making for a course of mine. First of all, you may wonder why should you spend time making AI images instead of using stock ones? Well, at least for me, I prefer to have consistent images across all the assets that I make, and it would be a quicker way to create the images using AI than actually have to look for them on a bank of images. You can also find images in stock banks, and maybe some of them will be also AI made in these banks. But in my case, I prefer to have a set of consistent images than spend a lot of time trying to find the perfect image and trying to find other images that match the style. And also, since I'm making this guide for people to get confidence on how to use AI and remove some of these limiting beliefs, I want to be coherent with what I'm offering. So I'm making a guide that uses these principles and show people how I can apply AI into the assets that I make. And if you're interested on getting this guide, it will be available for anyone who signs up for the priority list of my AI image generation course. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by getting an image from Pinterest or somewhere that has images in the style that I want. And what I like about this image was uh, the visual style that it has with the angle and the angle of the shots and the type of lens used that gives this exaggerated perspective. So I'm going to use it as a reference for the images that I'm going to make. And in order to do that, instead of me having to figure out every little detail and being a photography expert, what I'm going to do is to go to our friend ChatGPT and I'm going to put the image inside and I'm going to ask to replicate the style of the image with the angle of the shot, the editorial style, the exaggerated perspective, but keeping the details and including the elements of the style that I want, that in this case are intense dark blue colors. The clothing would be beige. I'm going to keep an Hispanic guy as the one of the points of consistency across all the images. So I'm gonna ask for that to be present in the picture as well. And once I have all that big prompt, I'm going to hit generate and see what result do I get. Now that I have this first prompt, what I'm going to do is to try it on Krea, that it is one of the most versatile AI platforms that there are. And let's see what it gives me. I'm making a test with Krea and a test with Flux to see what gives me the best results. So far, I like more the type of color that Flux is giving me, so I'm going to stick with that. And I like the image, but the colors are a bit down. They're not as saturated as I would like, and I could go to post-production and fix this. But if I can fix it here from the beginning and get all the images with the same level of saturation, it is gonna help me later to not have to do too much post-production after. So I'm gonna make some changes on the prompt in ChatGPT. I'm just gonna write some simple instructions. And now I have this second result that it has more luminosity, it has a bit more saturation, but let's still make some other small changes because I want the images to generate more visual impact. So I want that people like get really mesmerized with seeing them. So I'm going to increase the visual effects of the image. Okay, now after this third try, I'm not getting the type of illumination that I want. Everything else is very, very good, but the illumination is still not exactly what I want. So I'm going to check in the prompt. I'm going to go to the text of the prompt and I'm going to see what I can change to make the platform understand that I want a very, very specific illumination style, and I'm going to add it in the prompt here. So I have here the part where it's referring to the light. So I'm going to go and add that I want sunlight exterior illumination, and trying this. I like so much better the results. It is more bright, it is more warm. So it is exactly what I was looking for. Now that I have the base image, what I'm going to do is try to replicate the style in other angles and other types of photography. I'm going to test that with another type of image first. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to say, now I want a face close-up, for example. And with that prompt, I'm going to go again to Crea and I'm going to replace the prompt. And seeing now the result, I realized that even though it gave me what I wanted, it is not taking into account the first instruction that I gave, that it was, I want this person to be dressed on beige. So I'm going to give further instructions for it to realize that I wanted to keep the previous details of the image that I gave. And for that, I'm gonna rewrite it. Now with this new information, I'm going to copy the prompt and I put it back in Crea. And now I'm getting a result that it is in the same style as the first image, but being a close-up. It is not an entire close-up because it still has the laptop. So in order for it to respect my command of having the laptop and also having the face details, it has to have a bigger angle than just a close-up. But since I'm not, I don't need that level of specificity on the result of the image for now. I'm just gonna keep this image because what I need now is to keep the consistent style. Then I'm going to go more into details into what angles, what image composition and elements are going to be present. Now with these two images, I'm going to go to Figma and I'm going to make some tests to see how this style looks next to the editorial style of the guide that I'm making. And checking the result, I really like how it looks. So I'm going to keep going with this style. Before that, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to ask to add some other details for realism. So the shadows and the texture and these little details that make an image look more realistic are present and are considered in the prompt. And with that, these new images that I'm getting, they are so good. I'm so happy to use this in my guide. So I'm going to replace them. And yeah, totally, it looks so much better in my opinion. So what I'm going to do from now is to keep making other images to bring more variety to the images of this guide. And I'm going to select the ones that are better for me. Maybe a lot of people, what they would do is to try to manually change the settings of the pictures. But since I have access to ChatGPT, what I'm going to do is instead to ask to give me 10 variations of other camera angles, other environments. And with those changes, what I'm going to obtain is a lot of variety of images without me having to think too much on what are the exact parameters that I'm going to change to create this variety. And I can do this because I just want the images for illustrative purposes. If I would want a deeper concept and the images to have some sort of like well thought meaning, I would have to make a more complex prompt. But since I don't, I can speed things up just by doing this with ChatGPT. So I'm gonna copy these prompts and I'm gonna start placing them, all of them, copying them and placing them on Krea. And with all the results that I'm going to get, I'm going to select which ones are the best for what I want. And with those images, once I have a big amount of them, then I'm going to focus on what I would like to change in some of them. But for now, just gonna create all the images derivated from these prompts, and I'm going to download them and I'm going to test how they look on the guide that I'm making. I like a lot the dramatism of these images. This looks super good. And I like how it keeps the similarity on the hair and the dressing, even though it is not a requisite. I didn't make anything except for the race and gender of this character. I didn't do anything else to make the consistency. So it is not a requisite in those images, but I like that they all look in the similar style. And here is like a funny glitch of a hand going out of the laptop. That is totally okay when it happens. So I have some of these desert images that I don't like that much. And again, with AI, you don't have to like everything that the software gives you. It is enough to have some images that you like for you to select. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to take the ones that I prefer, and the ones that I don't, I'm going to discard them. And if I want more, I know the ones that I have with a prompt that works to have a base to work with. So now what I'm going to do is to test those images on the guide and see what works and what not and what is missing. And once I have that, I'm going to ask to ChatGPT to give me some other subjects. So I'm telling that doesn't always have to be a man. It can be a close-up. It can be more people involved. Just to keep the image style and vary the subject of the shot. Because since I have a lot of this character across the guide, I can now play with some other people involved and give the AI some freedom, so all the images are not the same in the guide. And just telling that, ChatGPT is going to give me a lot of variation of different subjects and different scenarios, but keeping the beige clothing, keeping the blue tones, and the illumination that I ask. And now I'm going to replace these images again on the guide, and I'm going to keep doing this process until I get all the images that I want. And once I have that, I'm going to go to the next phase, that it is upscaling the images. Why do I upscale an image? The level of detail that gives to the images in terms of realism, especially with people, faces and skin texture and that, it is way above the level that the common platforms of AI usually do. So I'm going to put this image on Krea. Krea also has an enhancer and it's super good. And I speak about that in my AI image generation course. If you want to learn more about it, you can check the link in the description of this video. So what I'm going to do with the parameters, it is basically whenever I have a face, not grow too much the creativity. If it's a face that I want to keep the similarity, if I don't care how the face looks like, if it's not like a face that you have to recognize or it has to look like someone in a specific, you can increase the creativity if you want. But if you want a specific face that it is the most similar possible to the face that you put, the best you can do is to lower the creativity in both the creativity above and in the face enhancement. And the other parameters, I'm going to try to keep them in a small value, because the more you increase the values of those, the more weird stuff is going to show up in the image, because it's going to try to imagine how this image could look, and it's going to start adding so weird things that it doesn't look good in all the cases. So just a little bit is okay, but too much tends to not be that good. So once that I do all that and I get the result, check the difference between the first image and the one that it is enhanced, and how the quality on the details increases. This is so good. So if you have to increase the quality of an image, my first recommendation is to go here to Crea and use Topaz Generative to make those changes. Another thing that you can do is to go to Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, if you don't, I strongly recommend you to get Photoshop for these kind of things. And what I'm going to do, it is to increase the level of texture in Camera Raw to make the skin more realistic. And I'm going to show you how that looks. I'm going to get closer to the image, and I'm going to make the value of the texture higher and see how much the little pores of the face are more visible now. And this, if it was previously a bit blurred, that maybe it was not that noticeable, but now that you see the difference, you can tell how much the image improved by increasing the texture. So that's a little trick that it can help you to also have more realism on the images that you do. Something else that I'm going to do here, it is to tweak a bit the parameters of the picture to make it a bit more dramatic. And since I turn this image into a smart object, what I can do then is for the next images, instead of repeating the process, I can just copy the layer with the effect applied into the other image and just copy the effect, like dragging and dropping the effect on the other image that I want to change, and erase the first image, and it will apply the same effect that I was applying to the previous image without me having to go to the parameters of Camera Raw and making the changes again, which is gonna save a lot of time. So that's another super good way of increase the productivity when you have to do a certain relatively big number of images. So I'm going to keep repeating this process again and again and again until I have all the images. And finally, I'm going to upload all those images into my guide and check how amazing it looks. So once again, if you want to get access to this guide, go to the link in the description, sign up for the priority list, and you will receive it as soon as I launch the course. Can be the first edition, can be the next edition. Anyone that sign up for the priority list will have access to this guide, that it will help you to remove these fears that you may have regarding AI. And it will help you a lot